A hush falls, broken only by the quiet hum of the city, as we delve into a tale that defies expectations, proving that true strength isn't found in wealth or power, but in the fierce, unwavering love of a mother. Picture a woman, abandoned and adrift, clutching the fragile hope of a new beginning, only to find destiny has a shocking twist in store. This is the story of Julia. The lonely billionaire refused all women, but what he did for this single mother and her baby shocked everyone. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories like this. Your support means the world. The scent of fresh coffee filled the small kitchen as Julia prepared breakfast. It was 5:30 in the morning, another day in Sao Paulo's east side. Pedro, her 3-year-old son, still slept peacefully in the next room. "Did you see my briefcase?" Marcel asked, entering the kitchen, adjusting his expensive tie. "It's on the living room table where you always leave it," Julia replied, pouring him a cup of coffee. "I won't have coffee. I have an important meeting today. But you need to eat something." I said no, Julia. His tone was rough. "Save my share for dinner." Just then, Pedro appeared at the kitchen door, dragging his favorite blanket. "Daddy, are you taking me to school today?" Marcel looked at his watch. "Not today, son. Daddy's too busy." "But you promised." "Pedro, I said I can't." Marcel grabbed his briefcase and left in a hurry, leaving his son with sad eyes. "Come here, my love." Julia hugged the little boy. "How about we make cake for breakfast?" After Marcel left, Julia began to clean the kitchen. His phone rang on the table. He had forgotten it. She thought about running to the garage to return it, but the screen lit up with a message. "Yesterday was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Kisses, Anna." Julia felt the floor disappear beneath her. Her hands trembled as she held the device. More messages appeared, revealing a story she never imagined reading. "Mommy, are you okay?" Pedro asked, noticing the change in her face. Julia swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm fine, my love. Mommy's just a little tired." The day dragged on like an eternity. When Marcel arrived that night, Julia had already put Pedro to sleep. "You forgot your phone today," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Oh, I was looking for it," Marcel replied casually, reaching out his hand. "Who is Anna?" Marcel froze for a second. Then his face changed. "Did you go through my phone?" The message appeared on the screen, Marcel. "How long has this been going on?" "You're being paranoid, Julia. This isn't going to work." He ran a hand through his hair, irritated. "I want a divorce." "What?" Julia felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. "And you'll have to leave the house. This house is in my name." "What about Pedro? If you try anything funny like compensation or custody, I'll use all my resources to take him from you. You know I can." Tears streamed down Julia's face, but she kept her voice firm. "You can't do this." "I can and I will. The choice is yours." That night, after Marcel went to sleep in the guest room, Julia packed a suitcase with essentials. In the morning, before he woke up, she took Pedro, some clothes, and important documents. "We're going on a special trip, my love," she whispered to her sleepy son. "Just us, Mommy." "Yes, my angel, just us." With a heavy heart, Julia closed the front door for the last time. She held Pedro's hand tightly and started walking. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew anywhere would be better than staying. The small third-floor apartment was quite different from the spacious house they used to live in. Julia watched Pedro sleep on the makeshift mattress as she counted the bills in her wallet. 650 Brazilian reals was all she had managed to save. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Pedro said, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Come here, my love. Let's make a delicious breakfast." Julia forced a smile, trying to hide her worry as she opened the few packages she had bought at the market. The following days were a marathon of frustrating interviews. "I'm sorry, but we need someone with recent experience." It was always the same answer. Her engineering degree seemed worthless after 5 years dedicated solely to her family. "Ms. Julia," her neighbor Rita's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Sorry to butt in, but my cousin works at a fancy restaurant on Paulista Avenue. They're looking for a waitress." Julia felt her stomach churn. A waitress? Her? Who had once coordinated important projects? But looking at Pedro playing with his few toys in the corner of the room, she swallowed her pride. "You can give me the contact, Rita." The restaurant was elegant, with impeccable white tablecloths and gleaming silverware. The manager, a middle-aged man named Carlos, looked her up and down. "Have you worked as a waitress before?" "No, but I learn quickly," Julia replied, trying to sound confident. "Look, normally we don't hire people without experience, but we really need someone. Start tomorrow at 5. Don't be late." Her first day was a test of endurance. Her legs ached, her tight shoes hurt, and she still had to keep a smile on her face while memorizing orders. "Hey, you!" A well-dressed customer snapped his fingers. "This wine is too warm." "I apologize, sir. I'll change it immediately." "I don't want your apologies. I want to speak to the manager. What incompetence!" Julia felt tears welling up, but held them back. She wiped the spilled wine with trembling hands, thinking of Pedro. At the end of her shift, her back screamed for rest. Sitting in the changing room, she looked at Pedro's photo on her phone, his gap-toothed smile lighting up the screen. "It was a tough day, huh?" Marina, another waitress, sat beside her. "The first day is always like that. It gets better." "I have to make it work," Julia replied, putting her phone away. "I have no choice." At home, she found Pedro asleep on the sofa, waiting for her. Abuela, an elderly lady from the building who charged little to care for him, whispered, "He kept asking for you all day." Julia picked up her son, feeling his warm little body against her chest. "Mommy's here now, my love." Lying on the makeshift bed, with Pedro snuggled beside her, she did the math. Her salary would barely cover rent and basic bills. She would need to work overtime, maybe pick up another job on weekends. "We'll make it," she murmured to herself, stroking her son's hair. "No matter how long it takes, we'll make it." Her phone vibrated. A message from Marina. "Big event at the restaurant tomorrow. Come early so we can teach you the daily specials." Julia replied with a quick okay and closed her eyes, exhausted. Tomorrow would be another day of battle, another day of forced smiles and aching feet. But it was also another day of independence, another step away from the past she wanted to forget. "I chose this," she thought, kissing Pedro's forehead, "and I'm going to make it worth it." The restaurant was packed that Thursday night. Julia balanced 3 plates as she moved between tables, her feet already complaining inside her black shoes. That's when he walked in. Hyunjin entered the restaurant doors, accompanied by 5 executives, all impeccably dressed. He stood out not only for his height, but for the natural presence he exuded. "Table 12 is ready for the VIP group," Marina whispered to Julia, adjusting her apron. "They're from Hyun Tech, that technology company." Julia discreetly observed the group while attending to other tables. The way Hyunjin led the conversation, always calm and attentive, caught her attention. "Waiter, this is absurd!" A customer's raised voice cut through the air. A man in an expensive suit gesticulated furiously at Lucas, the youngest waiter. "This wine is completely wrong. I ordered a Bordeaux 20. Lucas, barely 19, visibly trembled. "I'm so sorry, sir. Apologies don't fix your incompetence," the man continued, his voice rising even further. Julia didn't think twice. She approached with firm steps. "Excuse me, sir, can I help?" "This idiotic waiter brought the wrong wine. I ordered a Bordeaux 2015. "I understand your frustration." Julia kept her voice calm. "Allow me to resolve this immediately. Lucas, please bring the Bordeaux 2015 from our special cellar." As Lucas walked away, she continued, "You'll love this vintage, sir. It has notes of cherry and an incredible velvety finish. May I also suggest our cheese board to accompany it? The man seemed to deflate slightly, caught off guard by her composure. Well, yes, that could work. Across the room, Hyunjin observed the scene with interest. He saw how she transformed a tense situation into an extra sale, all without losing her dignity. Later, when Julia passed near his table to clean the adjacent one, Hyunjin called her. Please. Yes, sir. Can I help you? Their eyes met. Hyunjin smiled slightly. You have a sparkle that doesn't belong in this place. Julia felt her face flush, but she maintained her composure. It's the sparkle of someone who doesn't give up. The answer surprised Hyunjin. He tilted his head, studying her more closely. Interesting, he murmured. When the group was preparing to leave, Hyunjin called Carlos, the manager. Her name? Julia Santos, sir. How long has she worked here? Only 2 weeks. Hyunjin nodded, noting the information. Before leaving, he looked one last time at Julia, who was cleaning a distant table. At the end of her shift, Julia collapsed into a chair in the changing room, massaging her aching feet. I saw you dealing with that difficult customer, Marina commented, putting away her uniform. It was amazing. I just did my job, Julia replied, thinking of Pedro, waiting at home. And that Korean businessman couldn't take his eyes off you, Marina teased with a smile. Stop it, Julia laughed, shaking her head. He was just being polite. Pedro was already asleep when Julia finally got home. It was quite a day, wasn't it? She whispered to herself, adjusting the blanket over her son. Julia was so tired that she fell asleep right there while watching her son sleep. The phone rang at 7 in the morning, waking Julia, who was still trying to recover sleep after her heavy shift at the restaurant. Hello, she answered, her voice still hoarse. Julia, this is Carlos from the restaurant. Someone important wants to speak with you. Can you come here? She sat up in bed, confused. Now? If possible. It's very important. Pedro was still asleep when she called Marina, her neighbor. Can you stay with him for just 2 hours? I promise I'll be back soon. Of course, friend, don't worry. At the restaurant, Carlos waited for her at the back door, holding a silver card in his hands. What's going on? Julia asked. That Korean executive who was here yesterday, he left this for you. Carlos handed her the card. It's from Hyun Tech. He wants you to have an interview. Julia looked at the elegant card in her hands. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Mr. Hyunjin was very specific. He said he saw something special in you. At home, after letting Pedro play, Julia turned on her old notebook. She typed Hyun Tech and Hyunjin into Google. My God, she murmured, seeing the headlines. His company was worth billions. It was one of the largest technology companies in Asia. She got up and went to the closet, rummaging through boxes at the back until she found a battered notebook. Inside were projects and ideas she had developed during her engineering degree, before Marcel convinced her to drop everything to be just a mother. Mommy, I'm hungry. Pedro appeared at the door. Come here, my love. She picked him up. What do you think about Mommy trying something different? Different how? A new job. A job Mommy always wanted to do. Pedro smiled. Are you going to be happy? I think so, my love. I think so. The next morning, Julia put on her only formal outfit, a simple black suit she used for parent-teacher meetings. She left Pedro with Marina and took the subway to Paulista Avenue. The mirrored Hyun Tech building reflected the first rays of sunlight as Julia walked through the revolving doors. Her heart pounded. Good morning. I have an interview with Mr. Hyunjin, she told the receptionist. Julia Santos? 40th floor. He's already waiting. In the elevator, Julia took a deep breath, trying to control her nerves. The doors opened directly into Hyunjin's office. Hyunjin stood by the window, looking at the city. He turned when he heard the elevator. "Julia, welcome," he said, his deep voice filling the room. "Thank you for seeing me. Coffee? No, thank you." He gestured to a chair and sat in front of her, with no desk between them. His eyes were penetrating. "Why did you leave engineering?" The question caught her by surprise. "How do you know I'm an engineer? I researched you. Excellent grades, promising projects. Then you simply stopped. Why?" Julia took a deep breath. "My ex-husband, he said I needed to dedicate more to the family. And you believed him? At the time, yes." Hyunjin leaned forward. "Tell me about the automation project you developed in your last year of college." Julia's eyes lit up. The words flowed naturally as she explained her system, gesticulating with enthusiasm. Hyunjin listened intently. "Now tell me how you would solve this problem." He picked up a tablet and showed a complex graph. Julia studied the numbers for a moment. "First, we need to identify where the bottleneck is. Here, look." She pointed to the screen, explaining her solution step by step. "Impressive," Hyunjin murmured. "Do you know how long my team took to reach that same conclusion?" 3 days. Perhaps they needed a different perspective. Perhaps they needed you. He stood up, walking to the window. "I have a proposal. Personal advisor. Working directly with me on key projects." "Why me?" Hyunjin turned. "Because I saw something in you at that restaurant. Intelligence, resilience, and most importantly, I saw someone who deserves a second chance. I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's an investment." He smiled slightly. "But I'll warn you. Here, you either shine or you disappear." Julia thought of Pedro, of her nights at the restaurant, of her buried dreams. "When do I start?" "Monday, 8 o'clock. He extended his hand. "Welcome to Hyuntech." In the elevator, descending, Julia finally allowed the tears to fall. Tears of relief, of hope. At home, Pedro ran to hug her. "How was it, Mommy?" "It was good, my love. Very good." "Are you going to work there?" "Yes, I am. And you know what that means?" She knelt in front of him. "It means Mommy can give you a better life." "But you already do, Mommy." Julia hugged him tightly, smelling his sweet baby shampoo. "I love you so much, you know." That night, after putting Pedro to sleep, she opened her old project notebook. The yellowed pages held her youthful dreams, now no longer impossible. "Thank you," she whispered to the universe, closing the notebook with a smile on her lips. The imposing Hyuntech building gleamed under the blue sky as Julia passed through the entrance hall, her new employee ID hanging around her neck. It was her 3rd day as an advisor, and every step still felt unreal. "Good morning, Julia." Sarah, her department colleague, waved without much enthusiasm. The suspicious glances were constant. The waitress who became the CEO's advisor was the preferred topic in the corridors. "The meeting with investors starts in 10 minutes, Sarah informed, handing her a folder. "Mr. Hyunjin requested your presence." In the meeting room, expensive internal executives occupied the leather chairs. Julia was organizing the presentations when the door opened. Her heart stopped. "Marcel?" The name escaped her lips before she could stop herself. Roberto Santos, Marcel's partner in several businesses, smiled maliciously. "Julia? What a surprise. Pleasant. Do you know our new advisor?" Hyunjin asked. Entering the room. "Oh, yes. Her husband is a great business partner." "Ex-husband," Julia corrected, her hands trembling slightly as she distributed the documents. During the presentation, Roberto kept staring at her. Every time Julia spoke, he smiled in a superior way. She could feel cold sweat running down her back. After the meeting, Julia rushed to the restroom. Her legs could barely support her. Is he going to tell Marcel? She whispered to her pale reflection in the mirror. Julia! Hyunjin's voice surprised her as she left the restroom. Can we talk? In his office, he closed the door and sat beside her, not behind his imposing desk. Something happened in that meeting, he stated. It wasn't a question. It was nothing. You're trembling! Julia took a deep breath, looking at her hands. Roberto is my ex-husband's friend. And that's a problem because… Tears came unbidden. Marcel, he's not a good man. Hyunjin waited in silence, his eyes fixed on her. He cheated on me, and when I found out, he threatened me. He said if I tried anything, he'd use all his money to take my son from me. Is that why you left with nothing? Julia nodded, wiping her face. And now Roberto will tell him I'm here. Look at me, Hyunjin said softly. When their eyes met, he continued. You're not alone in this anymore. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing trouble. You're rebuilding your life, and you have every right to do so. That afternoon, alone in the office organizing documents, Julia found something strange. They were old contracts, with what looked like duplicated signatures. Looking closer, her heart raced. These were the frauds Marcel always talked about at home, thinking she didn't understand. So that's how you made your fortune? She murmured, discreetly photographing the pages with her phone. That night, at home, Pedro ran into her arms. Mommy, I made a drawing for you. Looking at the colorful paper with stick figures, Julia knew she couldn't give up. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about giving her son a life free from the fear Marcel represented. It's beautiful, my love. She kissed her son's forehead. How about we put it on the fridge? While Pedro slept, Julia looked at the photos of the documents again. An idea began to form in her mind. If Marcel wanted war, she was ready to fight. The Hyuntech office was silent when Julia entered Hyunjin's room, carrying a folder full of documents. I found something you need to see, she said, placing the papers on the glass table. Hyunjin looked up from his computer. What did you discover? Forged contracts, duplicated signatures, all linked to Marcel. Julia pointed to the dates on the documents. He did this for years. How did you get this? I cross-referenced data from recent projects. The numbers didn't match. She ran a hand through her hair, nervous. He always bragged about being too smart to get caught. Hyunjin examined the papers carefully. The clock on the wall read 9 in the evening when he finally spoke. You haven't had dinner, have you? I didn't have time. He picked up the phone. I'll order something for us to eat here. While they waited for the food, Hyunjin told her about his life in Korea. You know, I also started from scratch. My father was a teacher. We didn't have much money. How did you get here? Hard work, and some people who believed in me. He looked at her intently. Like I believe in you. The food arrived. Plates of Thai food filled the room with a delicious aroma. Is Pedro with the nanny? Hyunjin asked. Yes, Marina is an angel. She stays with him when I need to work late. The moment was interrupted by a commotion at the reception. Marcel's voice echoed down the corridor. Where's Julia? I know she's here. Julia froze, her fork suspended in midair. Hyunjin stood up immediately. Stay here, he said, but she followed him to the door. Marcel was in the hallway, his face red with rage. So this is where you hid, working for the competitor? I'm not hiding anything, Julia replied, her voice firmer than she felt. You have no right to be here. Marcel took a step forward. I'll destroy your career before it even begins. Hyunjin stepped between them. The only one leaving here is you, Mr. Tellis. This is none of your business. Any threat to my employee is my business. Hyunjin's voice was calm but firm. And I suggest you think carefully before making threats in my office. Marcel took a step back, realizing the situation. This isn't over, Julia. After he left, Julia breathed a sigh of relief. Are you okay? Hyunjin asked, lightly touching her arm. I am. It's just… She hesitated. Pedro, what if he tries something? He won't try anything. Hyunjin guided her back to the office. I have the best lawyers in the country. We'll protect you and Pedro. Sitting down again, Julia looked at the scattered documents. With this evidence, we can take him down. Are you sure you want to do this? She thought of Pedro, of all the nights crying in secret, of Marcel's veiled threats. I do, but how do I explain to Pedro that Mommy destroyed his father? Hyunjin sat beside her. You're not destroying anyone. You're seeking justice. We'll do this right, he continued. Step by step. You're not alone in this battle. When she got home, Pedro ran into her arms as soon as she opened the door. Mommy's home. Hugging her son, Julia knew she had made the right decision. It was time to fight, not for revenge, but for justice, for herself and for Pedro. The meeting room on the 40th floor was silent when Julia entered, carrying a blue folder full of documents. Marcel was already there, sitting in his Italian suit with an arrogant smile. What a surprise to see you here, darling, he said, his voice full of sarcasm. I'm not your darling anymore, Marcel. Julia placed the folder on the table. And after today, you'll understand why. She opened the folder and began distributing copies of the documents to the executives present. Marcel picked up his copy, his face changing color as he read. This is ridiculous, he said, throwing the papers on the table. You can't believe her. The numbers don't lie, Julia replied, keeping her voice firm. All the frauds, all the embezzlements, it's all here. You have no proof. Yes, I do. She projected the documents onto the screen. Here are your forged signatures. There are the altered dates. And this, she pointed to a graph, are the millions you embezzled over the past 3 years. Marcel stood up quickly. This is persecution. She's trying to destroy me because we broke up. Just then, Hyunjin entered the room. Sit down, Mr. Tellis. You don't tell me what to do. In this room, I do. Hyunjin approached the table, and I suggest you listen carefully. For the next hour, Julia meticulously presented every detail. The other executives took notes, their faces serious. I'll sue all of you, Marcel threatened, his voice trembling. You can try, Julia replied. I have 5 more folders like this in secure places. You wouldn't dare? You don't know me anymore, Marcel. You never truly did. The executives began to leave, whispering among themselves. Marcel remained, defeated. Why are you doing this to me? I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just showing everyone who you really are. After everyone had left, Hyunjin lightly touched Julia's arm. Come with me. He led her to the building's terrace. São Paulo stretched below them, a sea of lights as night began. You were incredible in there, he said. I'm trembling inside, but you didn't show it. That's your strength. Julia looked at the city. You know what's strangest? No, I don't feel pleasure in this, just relief. That's because you're better than him. Hyunjin approached. Much better. Their eyes met, and Julia felt that familiar warmth in her chest. I need to go, she said softly. Pedro is waiting for me. Of course, he smiled. Go rest. In the elevator, descending alone. Julia finally allowed the tears to fall. They weren't tears of sadness or revenge. They were tears of liberation. At home, she found Pedro drawing at the kitchen table. Mommy! She hugged him tightly, smelling his sweet child scent. Hi, my love. What a beautiful drawing. It's our family. He showed her the paper full of colorful scribbles. Look, you're smiling here. Julia looked at the simple drawing and felt her heart fill with love. There was her true victory. Not Marcel's destruction, but the chance to give her son a life free from lies. Are you hungry? She asked, carefully putting the drawing away. Very. Can we make pasta? Of course we can. As she cooked, with Pedro chattering beside her about his day at school, Julia knew she had made the right choice. Julia was at her desk, reviewing some documents when her phone vibrated. It was a message from Hyunjin. "Can we talk? I have something important to tell you." Her heart quickened. After everything that had happened with Marcel, the idea of getting involved with someone scared her. But Hyunjin was different. She knew that. "Of course." "Where?" "I'll pick you up at 8. Wear something beautiful." That night, after leaving Pedro with Marina, her trusted Damao neighbor, Julia, looked at herself in the mirror. The simple black dress accentuated her eyes. "You look beautiful," Hyunjin said when she got into the car. The restaurant was on the top floor of a building on Paulista Avenue. The view of Sao Paulo at night was breathtaking. "Do you remember the day I met you?" he asked, pouring her wine. "At the restaurant? How could I forget? I saw something in you that day, a strength that impressed me." Julia lowered her eyes to her plate. She was just trying to survive. "No," he touched her hand across the table. "You were fighting, and you continue to fight every day." "I'm scared," she confessed, "to trust again, to get hurt. And I'm scared of losing you without even trying." Soft music played in the background. Hyunjin stood and extended his hand. "Dance with me?" In the middle of the hall, with the city sparkling below, they danced slowly. Julia could feel his heart beating. "Can I kiss you?" he whispered. She responded by looking up. The kiss was gentle, full of unspoken promises. "I need to go," she said afterward. "Pedro is waiting for me." "I know," he smiled. "I'll take you." On the way back, she looked at him. "I need time. To be sure, all the time you need." At home, Pedro was asleep on the sofa. Marina winked at her before leaving. "Mommy?" Pedro asked sleepily. "Hi, my love. Are you happy? Your face is glowing." Julia smiled, picking up her son. "Yes, my love. Very happy." That night, lying in her bed, she thought about how life could change, how a heart could open again, even after so much suffering, how love could arrive gently, without warning, bringing with it the promise of better days. The courtroom was packed that Thursday morning. Julia sat in the first row, her hands in her lap, as she watched Marcel enter, looking dejected. "Are you okay?" Hyunjin whispered, sitting beside her. "I am. I just want this to be over." The judge delivered the sentence in a firm voice. 5 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. Marcel, once so imposing in his expensive suits, now looked small in his prison uniform. "It's over." Julia took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The following week, the Hyuntech Auditorium was full for the announcement of the new director of special projects. "It is with pride that I present Julia Santos," Hyunjin said into the microphone. "A woman who proved that talent and determination can overcome any obstacle." After the ceremony, he called her into his office. "I have a surprise for you and Pedro." "What is it?" "How about getting to know Sol?" Julia's eyes sparkled. "Sol, but everything's already organized. Pedro will love it." Pedro jumped for joy when he heard about the trip. "Are we going on a plane, Mommy?" "Yes, my love, and we're going to see a very special place." Sol welcomed them with a sunny day. Pedro was amazed by the gleaming skyscrapers and colorful lights. "Look, Mommy, everything sparkles." Hyunjin took them to visit Gyeongbokgung Palace, then to eat bibimbap at a traditional restaurant. "Do you like Korean food, Pedro?" Hyunjin asked, helping the boy with his chopsticks. "I do. Uncle Hyunjin, teach me how to speak Korean?" Julia watched the two of them, her heart warming at the scene. At the end of the day, they went up the Seoul Tower. "Close your eyes," Hyunjin asked when they reached the observation deck. Julia obeyed. When she opened them, she found Hyunjin holding a small black box. "It's not an engagement ring," he explained quickly. "It's a promise that we'll build something together, in our own time." Inside the box was a delicate ring with 3 small stones. "One for you, one for Pedro, and one for me," he explained. Our family. It's beautiful, she whispered, looking at the delicate ring. Pedro watched everything with curious eyes. Are you two going to date? Julia and Hyunjin laughed. Would you like that? She asked her son. Yes, then Uncle Hyunjin can teach me more Korean words. Hyunjin picked Pedro up. How about we start now? Saranghae means, I love you. Saranghae, Pedro repeated, making the two adults smile. Julia looked at Hyunjin and Pedro talking animatedly, her heart overflowing with happiness. Saranghae, she whispered, testing the new word on her tongue. Hyunjin looked at her, surprised, then smiled that smile she loved so much. Saranghae, he replied, taking her hand. The three stood there, watching the city lights turn on one by one. A different family, built not by blood, but by love and the choice to be together. Mommy, Pedro called sleepily. I'm happy. Me too, my love, she replied, kissing his forehead. Very happy. Back at the hotel, after putting Pedro to bed, Julia found Hyunjin on the balcony. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. You're stronger than you think, Julia. You always were. That night, lying with Pedro sleeping beside her, Julia thought about how life could change. A year ago, she was fleeing her home with a suitcase and a broken heart. Now she was on the other side of the world, with a bright future ahead, and a love born not of necessity, but of mutual admiration. We made it, my love, she whispered to a sleeping Pedro. Mommy promised, remember? At the bedroom door, Hyunjin watched the two of them with a smile. Tomorrow would be another day, with new challenges and achievements. But now, in this moment, everything was perfect. Not because it was easy or magical, but because it was true. And sometimes, the truth is more beautiful than any dream. So, what did you think of the story? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like the video to support us and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.